And also, as this is our first talk of the conference today, we want to also start with a why. So nudging you into your corner as well of why journeying into user research together can be a good thing. Why should you do it with a whole team? And also, why should you build around the context that everything is in? And why is all of that important? We hopefully can answer that a little bit for you today and nudge you further with a couple of thoughts. But let's start with a little introduction. Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are in the world. I'm Johanna Vollrath. I am based in Munich, Germany. I'm a lead experience designer here at Thoughtworks. And I had the pleasure of working on a Mercedes Benz project for the past 3 years and establish and define a user research stream for this project. And I am honored to be joined here by João, who is kind enough to reflect his experience throughout this process. Good morning, João.
Morning, Johanna. Good morning, good afternoon around the globe, or even good evening. So I'm João Fereirra, a product owner in Mercedes Benz, with almost 23 years of experience in the company. I have this unique opportunity where actually I'm the product owner targeting users, which I have done the job previously. So let's find out more during this talk, but very thrilled to be here, as I said before. Thank you.
Yeah, wonderful to have you here. What we're going to talk to everyone about is our case study. So very much of what we have learned, not only within the project, but as a collaboration between the consultancy side of Thoughtworks and client side of Mercedes Benz. But before we really dive in, João, can you give us an introduction of what this project is actually about?
Absolutely. So our project, our target is to become the single source of truth for all Mercedes-Benz passenger cars, vans, and G-Class data worldwide. And also to provide all the data experts around the globe a seamless maintenance experience for all the portfolio data, being it options, prices, technical data, pictures, and so on, everything around the car, a Mercedes-Benz in this case.
Yeah, so not an easy task to put all of that context and all the great learnings into a short talk, but we are trying to see if we can nudge your mind through these main 5 topics that we picked for you today. We're also hoping that we will have some time towards the end for a Q&A. Very curious of what your questions might be. And we were really going to talk about everything around the actual research sessions, around how to do research, etc., but what to consider within context. But I would say, let's dive right in. João, are you ready? Do you have your coffee?
Always. I run on coffee.
Wonderful. Okay, cool. So first topic of today, understanding the SME, so subject matter expert, and user context. What this topic is about is the importance of understanding whom you are working with, not only from a researcher's or designer's perspective, but also as a team coming into a new space, understanding that context. I can't stress that enough, how vital that is as a foundation to build your user research, because depending on the information that you get, it can go into any direction or enable you or not whilst considering it. And in our case here, we have that context of Mercedes Benz, and we noticed quickly that we were working with a context where people were not necessarily used to working agile as we were from Thoughtworks side, or actually be included within a software development and what that means from their perspective. But also from the user side, they weren't really used to being included into software delivery. And João, that also was new to you. Would you care to share a couple of thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are not used to work agile yet. So also this project is transforming that, but definitely I can confirm in the 23 years of experience, now as a PO, but before as a user, I was never involved in such a project where the users were actually talked to before the software is delivered. So, and normally this dumping of software to the users has even some negative impact from the beginning. And I can clearly confirm that involving the users as early as possible as a positive effect in the software development.
Yes, and on top of that, given that the users are actually within your same space, that kind of leads us into the next topic that we want to bring in. And talking about that we're in that space of a business to employee context, which is very different from a business to customer. So you're much more connected with the users that you're working with and talking with. And you really have to consider the political aspects that are affecting the connections that you can have with the users, but also the communications that you have with them and in between those users, and how that can actually change the perception of your project. And I know you have a couple of reflections on that, João.
Yes, so as in any company, I would say good or bad, the news can travel fast. So the early involvement of the users, the early involvement of the managers of the user, somehow there's still some hierarchy involved. The user needs to have the allowance to use time to spend time with us as a part of his regular job. And so something even like job safety. So every time we hear about efficiency, right, a user may get defensive. So this is very important to be fully transparent since the beginning, to clearly communicate this, to help to build this shared picture and build the trust with the users that then they can speak openly to us. This is also vital in this kind of approaches.
Yeah, exactly. And I remember that situation where I was very eager to get started and reaching out to the users, but it was not only stopped from a perspective of, hey, you know, we can't just ask them for their time, but also there was this interesting aspect that we needed to help the users and their management to understand how can they get buy-in through the different structures to spend time with us and, you know, be allowed to be part of it. And it wasn't necessarily always the case where users said, what do you want from us? But they were really eager to be part of it. And they needed our help to, you know, get to that space and be allowed to, or be enabled to spend that time.
I think the most interesting part for the user is that they can actually shape the future of their job by helping us. So this is also the most important thing here.
Yes. So our conclusion for our first topic here is do go in and align your user communication strategy and see how can you support one product picture throughout the whole company and drive that in by understanding that context of the space that you're in and the people that are in that space. Hopping into our next topic, we want to talk about connecting with the subject matter experts through collaboration. And this is very much a nudge where, from a designer's or researcher's perspective, it's very quick to go in and collect all that knowledge and drive that forward with the outcomes. But what we learned here is that when you sit down and understand that research together and move into that collaborative space, it's much easier to take people onto that journey, and it's much more enabled throughout the whole team. So what we wanted to bring in here is really say, gather that knowledge and make it visible in one space, make it very much a living document for the whole team, go through the existing tools together, because from a software delivery perspective, your questions are very much new to the other world, for the user world, for the SME world. So bring in those and collect everything that you don't know, and also everything that you assume is right. So you have a shared picture of where it is, where you need to dive in deeper, and maybe collect some more information.
Absolutely. So what I would like to highlight here is it was very interesting to me to see this mutual learning and that the team was eager to listen from me, and I could share experience, and it was useful for the project. So the team always had this eagerness to learn through open questions. And once this alignment was done, this was really vital to me as a PO, that I was able to trust the team. I have downloaded some business information to the developers. And I could invest my time also elsewhere, like stakeholder management, also on. So I didn't really need to attend every single call. I didn't need to make every single decision. The team was kind of autonomous. So this early investment of time really paid off during then the process and the following steps.
Yes, and I remember us talking and you being in our call, being very excited of saying, hey, I didn't need to meet the team for a week or a day or whatever
Absolutely.
it was. You said, like, I can trust that team. I don't have to be there. And that was a wonderful change that we were able to achieve through that shared knowledge place.
Yeah, but it took some time.
Yes, and also when we were going into that space, we will then not only gathering all that knowledge, but also saying, hey, together, not only what do we not understand, but what do we do with it? So again, from a researcher designer perspective, going in and collaborating on the why and how do you then test that knowledge or gather even more knowledge? And then really sharing those methodologies and explain them because you're coming in with that wonderful skill set and all these learnings. But if you don't take the people onto that journey with you, they will always be that gap in between of saying, oh, but why do you need to go in? Why do you need to have that capacity to drive that forward? But after doing that and sharing all of this, we were enabling a better platform in order to work together and also give some guardrails around joining a session, setting a goal, setting rules to different sessions, but also help people understand what is the role within that and what is their behavior going to enable if they're driving it from a certain point of view. And João, I think we've done a couple of back and forth of joining a session and talking about this. Why is there a certain framework for it? What was your perspective?
I would say, I hope I was a good pupil or a good student. I know it was hard for me and it was hard for you to educate me in this sense. So I just mentioned it is awesome to download the information to the team and to trust the team. But then first user sessions with the real users, again, the same questions were asked. And I get the feeling like, don't they trust me? Or I just answered this question yesterday. Why are you asking again? And then you explain, and I understood, I hope, the importance of these questions to see the different behaviors of the different users. At the end, I'm only one user from the past. The company is dynamic, things evolve, things are done now slightly differently. And also I understand the importance of the value of listening. If you remember in some of the calls, I even kind of gave you not even a digital raise hand where I said, can I ask a question now or would I crash some agenda? I was really eager to learn and I was seeing the development and learning from it, this mutual learning. And it was fundamental to me. It is way important to listen to this session, be more passive, even though you know the answer. Let the XCs ask the questions again for validation, what we call sometimes the stupid questions. Sorry about the term, but it really is how I felt in the first sessions. But now it's gone. Now I fully trust the method and the team.
Yes, in our conversation, we're at a completely different level, and we were enabling us to elevate our thinking and our approach together. So as a conclusion to this, really nudging again of like enable yourselves to learn together through shared base knowledge. Moving into our third topic is set expectations about the sessions. So when you're going in and define the sessions and go into those, helping people what those are about. So again, from a different perspective than the topic before, to nudge that on like, what will that be for the user side, but also what are the expectations that the whole team might need to consider. And for the user perspective, I want to nudge you today of saying, hey, consider that the experience of a user is a very important one when interacting with you as a team, before the sessions, during the sessions, after the sessions. They will not necessarily come in and know what those sessions are about. So spend some time to help them get acquainted with that space. Guide them through a plan of really saying what to expect from today, what do we maybe cover later, and what this is on about. and really allow some space for them to come in with their topics. They are working with the tool, they're excited about the tool, they may be even fearful of the tool, and they will come in with their aspects. So allow them to voice those, and perfectly at the end of the session, so you can go through with your agenda, but allow them that space. And I think, João, that was actually quite a key aspect for changing our collaboration with the users.
Yes, it was. So this initial expectation management, if you don't go into the sessions with an agenda, it will derail. The user will come with his own agenda. Oh, yesterday he had a bad experience on a certain area of the tool, which we are not even developing yet. So it's still a real world problem, but not for today. A kind of, dear user, we love you, but this time we want to talk about something else. This is our clear agenda. So also my experience at the beginning, where as I have done the job and say, hey, I definitely bear with you. I know how it was in the past for me. And we will save some time at the end. Very important also, 5-10 minutes Q&A. So from after what you learned today, what is there left for you to ask us now? And this dramatically reduces also the number of emails and email conversations. If you set up the agenda properly, then people feel involved, feel informed, and they don't need to ping you or to come after one or the other question around the PO. So this is also very, very important.
Yeah, genau. And also considering it not only from the user perspective, but jumping into the team, think about that research is mostly the value of research is mostly invisible. And from someone who is driving research, consider that this aspect is something that is very valuable to share, because mostly you are bringing in great value by avoiding problems and avoiding errors, which becomes immeasurable. So creating awareness of such and taking people onto that journey can really help iron out those things. Also clarifying that research doesn't need to be lengthy or need to be, very expensive. There are very quick and easy ways of gathering certainty for the team to help people to understand those different possibilities.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a very fresh example in my mind on how this can really be done very simply. Talking to a specific user group, I always told the team, and please do not forget, there is an edge case in this area. We need to consider it. And during the beginning of the session, expectation setting, I said, hey guys, and I know you have exactly this edge case. I was immediately cut off by the colleagues, very politely, of course, saying, actually, we don't need that anymore. We will do things differently starting next year. Please do not do that. So Johanna and to the audience, I really cannot quantify how much time or money we save, but the opposite would have happened, like your users is your final software. We even have this awesome feature. I think you can imagine the cost or the time invested. So Johanna, over to you. This is a clear example, very fresh of 2 weeks ago.
Yeah,
that it is working.
Absolutely. So yeah, to wrap up this topic here is once experienced, the value of research is greatly understood. So think about how to get there as a team together from each side. Topic 4 is maybe one of the most important one, understanding learnings in context. And what we want to talk about here is really that what you think it means does not mean it's true. There are many situations where people hear something or even say something, but actually what is meant by it is a completely different one. And as a team, it's your job to understand what are the root causes, what is actually the thing behind it, and don't just go in and build the thing that the user have said. This can lead into building very bad products. Also, what I wanted to nudge here from our experience is go in and go through it with the SME context. So João, I can't even count how many times I was enabled through your reflection of saying, hey, with this comment, they actually mean that, or they don't actually need this because the context of the rule base is such behind it. So go in and understand that context and do that as a team in order to really embrace the whole perspective and the whole input as a shared group.
Absolutely. The key aspect here is when we talk to a specific user, he's an expert in that area. So he has a kind of a funnel view. He knows in terms of the data, he receives data from the previous level, and he needs to send it to the next level. So we need to avoid this funnel view to us. So then it's the role of the PO, of course, to get away from the tree and actually see the entire forest. The user doesn't know how the full project is going. And we need to cascade down this information too. So over to you, Johanna, but it is fundamental to avoid this funnel view, to have the bigger picture.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have a couple of examples on that, but I'm conscious of time, so maybe we can nudge them in the question time. But what we wanted to conclude this with is that importance that if you want to build great products, don't only listen to the user, but understand what the root causes are and come from those base user needs and talk about those within that intersection of business and technological feasibility. And this is where you can really build truly great products. Our last topic of today is enable future scaling. And what we want to nudge here is about that when you grow in either direction, you need to reconsider the user research strategy that you're driving in order to manage that capacity and the different changes. And João, I think we have a wonderful example coming in through you this morning, if I'm correct.
2 hours old. Again, our tool is intuitive, so it did pay off to make it intuitive. We just talked to a new user group or a new user this morning, and it was amazing to see there was not a request for a user manual or a training session. It was just fluently going through our UI, discovering the needs that he had, finding the features there. And of course, why is it so important to do this? Example, onboarding a different market soon or sooner or later, like China. Yes, the complexity will be there, a different culture, even a different alphabet or graphology or whatever. We will need to have time for those complexities. But until now, it's very seamless. It's super easy to onboard a new market. And I can only confirm that by building an intuitive UI, then you save the time to invest where you really need to do it. Absolutely.
Yes. And I think these are wonderful examples that were coming out of our early alignments and that engagement strategy chats that we had about, okay, now that we have more markets wanting to come in, more people who want to join, how do we do this? And what is actually needed in order to make that possible, whilst not overstretching our capacity, but have a healthy product and project planning on site, giving those new needs. So again, from a research perspective, help the team understand what you see based on your experience and the different perspective, and walk through that with the team together of like, okay, let's imagine we have more people. What will that mean? And what are simple ways of actually enabling and managing that growth? And really identify how and where would you need to support those users in order to get into a healthy and happy space, and somewhat a space that also enables your product to keep learning from the users, which not overstretching the need of taking them by the hand all the time. So really to nudge this thought as well is think with designers and allow yourself to be ready before anything can go into a negative space. Think about that. Think about how you can create that space for you as a project team, but also your product and what that will mean while scaling up. There is a wonderful talk also following this one if you're more interested into scaling, into working with multiple teams and how to kind of create that research ops. But if it comes into questions where it's more about examples on this case, we're happy to nudge a couple more thoughts here, but I think we're slowly getting out of time. So thank you very much for listening to us today.